this episode, Travis Campbell, his relationship with his father, Glen Campbell. Okay, we're on the air right now, out of the box with Dr. Susan, and guess who's with us? You can't imagine. He's a friend. I've known him since he was a little guy. His mom was one of my best friends, still is, because I get to see her again. I just miss her. And I'm talking to Travis Campbell, whose father is Glen Campbell. And so I'll do that a few times more in the show, but this is Travis. And boy, I'll tell you, where are you living now? Where are you?
In Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, you're still in Wichita?
Yep, still in Wichita. When people ask me why I moved here, I tell them because I'm here looking for that lineman guy that Dad sang about,
Either that, click your heels, one of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah,
What's been going on there with this COVID-19? Are you guys locked in?
Well, no, it's. I mean, we've definitely been blessed, that we're healthy. They shut down a lot of the restaurants and things like that for a while, but they're opening stuff back up. I got to wear the mask kind of out in public, but it's not as bad, as other places are.
Yeah, California being one where you and I
Oh,
grew up knowing each other. I mean, California is really on lockdown. And in fact, someone said to me the other day, you can come here and stay at my home while I go to wherever it was. And I thought, I got to really think about that because at least I know my territory, like you and Trudy know your territory.
Sure.
So I guess there's so much to talk about. I'm not for sure where to start. It was interesting that there's something ringing. Can you hear it? Okay. Got that. First of all, why don't we talk about when you were living in a house off Mulholland, not the big house, the little house.
Okay, on Allenwood, yeah.
On Allenwood, thank you. And I would drive in and there'd be this huge Camel soup can in the front window. The Camel soup. And that yeah. That was so clever because it's not like they had a lot of money then, to decorate. So they just took that huge. I thought it was so clever of your mom to do that,
That's funny because even to this day, when people ask how you spell your name, I'm like CAMPB, 2 L's like Campbell Soup,
Yeah. I don't know how old you were then. You're a young baby.
I really don't. I mean, honestly, I really don't. I don't have recollections of you until the big house. When I think of you, I think about the house up on Edwin.
That's when everybody became a friend. When you got into the big house, with the tennis court and it's so funny because he'll tell you that his mom. We had this volleyball game that was just the best volleyball game. And we had it on, I can't remember what night of the week, but everybody that was in the business would come up, play volleyball, work their, calories off and everything. And then she had a garden and she loved her garden, didn't she, Travis?
Oh, loved it immensely. And it's funny that you mentioned the volleyball game because I just shot you a couple of photos, before we went on air. One of them is one of my favorite picture of all time, the one with you. You can see your outline, but I'm pretty sure that you, Mom, and Mother Teresa. And then the other one is, it's her playing volleyball. It's a picture of her playing volleyball.
Well, they got rough, I got to tell you. You could lose your face on that court.
Definitely.
Those were fun days, I must tell you. And it was 7 acres up there.
Yeah, 7 acres. After, I think it was right around Rhinestone Cowboy came off. She, because they lived down and on the Allenwood, which was, it's called Laurel Canyon.
Laurel Canyon, sure.
They had a documentary out. They did like a 2-part thing. It was like the music all happened up there in Laurel Canyon because I guess there were a lot of artists that ended up buying houses up in that area in the early 70s, or late 60s and early 70s. But that's when Dad was part of the Wrecking Crew. A studio musician there in L.A. And I mean, not a lot of people know. I mean, many do that he ended up making, his money and all that he was able to do for us at that time by being a studio musician there in LA. He played on just about everybody's hits from Sinatra to Elvis, the Beach Boys, Mamas and the Papas. And the neat thing about it is he couldn't read sheet music. I mean, he could read chords, he could read guitar chords, but he couldn't read actual sheet music. And I mean, to be one of the most in-demand session musicians and not be able to read sheet music is quite an achievement, you know.
You know who else said that about him was the Burnett family.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Billy
you
Burnett,
know,
yeah.
Billy
Yeah,
Burnett, yeah.
And Dorsey, yeah.
And
Thurley, I still
Dorsey.
talk to Thurley in Vegas. Yeah.
Do you?
I mean, not Thurley, Alberta. Thurley
Well,
passed
I
away.
knew who you meant.
Yeah.
I knew you
Yeah.
meant. And I think Billy's brother is living here in Vegas, also Johnny. And these guys, they were the sons of Dorsey Burnett. Got to go back a little bit to go forward, right?
Yeah, Dorsey and Johnny Burnett, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I tell you, they taught me a lot. And Alberta worked with Billie Jean Campbell, and then who was the other lady that worked with the famous country singer? I don't remember right now. It'll come to me. It'll come to
I'm
me.
talking about Connie or Connie White. I mean, Connie White worked for Mom afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the reason it's so interesting is because these are Nashville people. These are,
Sure.
we're trying country before country was cool, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, there's a couple funny stories about Dad, you know, in the studio there because well, one of them, you know, he's sitting there and, you know, they're recording and he's sitting there and he's, you know, playing his music to whatever song it was. And then the producer came up behind him and we looked at his sheet music and looked at Dad, and Dad's sitting there jamming away. And then the producer looked at and turned Dad's sheet music, you know, around right side up. He had it upside down, you know, and then there was another one where he was in the studio there with Frank Sinatra, and then Frank Sinatra, Dad kept looking at Frank Sinatra, and Frank finally told the producer, said, "Who is this kid here from Arkansas that keeps staring at me? He's making me uncomfortable." It's it's really. I mean, we were so blessed. Or I was. I mean, our family was blessed. You know, just to be able to do what we did. You know, and then after we built the house on the hill, I remember as a kid, because it was 7 acres, it was 17,000 square feet. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, it's up at Laurel Canyon in Mulholland. You go up Skyline, and then you pop up at Edwin, and she chopped off the hilltop there, and it had almost a 360-degree view. There was a K-Joy radio station that was right there, but you could see Catalina, you could see snow on the mountains, you know, in the winter, and it was just quite beautiful. It was very, very beautiful. And I remember me, even as a kid, I remember sitting in the kitchen. It was a red tile kitchen, you know, that overlooked the valley. And I remember as a kid, I used to sit in the sink in the kitchen and look out over that view and just wonder, why were we so blessed? You know, why did we get to live here? You know, and you know, and that kind of gratitude, you know, was instilled to me by, you know, Mom and Dad, you know, and Mom was especially that way, you know. I mean, she would do a lot of, you know, towards the end of her life, a lot of philanthropic work with you in India, you know, when you guys would go over there. And
I'm going to back up for a moment for people who are not from California that are listening, who will be listening. The Mulholland that Travis is talking about is one of the longest, right, Trav, through California, and is also the prettiest, and is also where Jimmy Dean lost his life. And I mean, there's some wonderful historical facts about Mulholland. And we'd go to the kitchen that Travis is talking about, and we could look over the whole valley.
Yeah, the whole LA
one side.
You
know, and it was just, and then it'd take you 3 days to get back to your bedroom. I brought my mother and father up there, and they spent a night. My father says, "This house makes me nervous. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I'm getting. I don't know where I'm going." You know, it's so easy to get turned around. But it was a beautiful home, and we had a lot of good times there. You know, a lot of people thought that radio station, not the prefix, not the letters of it, but the radio station itself, had a lot to do with your mom getting cancer.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of people that say that. I mean, that, as well as, I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but where she grew up in Carlsbad, New Mexico, is 10 miles away from White Sands. You know, where they at the White Sand Missile Range, where the the bomb was first tested. I mean, you can, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's just, it's weird now because I'll be 55 this December, and we lost mom when I believe she was 53, and it's just way too young, just way too young. But I guess we're here as long as the good Lord needs us to do whatever He needs us to do while we're here, and.
Well, the fact that she went home so early is misfortune, because on a selfish realm over here, she's my best friend. And so I didn't quite understand. I argued with, why would you do this? Why would you do,
Sure.
the arguments that go with the
Oh,
belief. But the fact that we are promised to see her again, that
yeah.
is what
I
we
get
hang
chill
on
bumps.
to.
I get chill bumps, just with you saying that. Look at my arms, man. And then I've heard, and I'm not sure if I heard it from you, but I have to know, because I've heard this kind of funny story where mom was really, really sick. She was staying at Marilyn Ball's house, who's Lindsay Wagner's mother.
Right.
And mom was really, really sick. And then I guess you were talking to her and said, Billy, just let go. Just go be with the Lord, Billy. Just let go. And I guess, from what I heard she'd tell you to go bugger off. She didn't want to go. You go be with the Lord.
That's right. No, that's true. You know how we're taught to give permission to people if they want to pass? Well, she didn't want to go. It's that simple.
Yeah.
She was not ready. But, as a chaplain, you want people to know it's all right if they want to go on. And at the same time, Marilyn Ball, whose mother is Leslie.
Daughter, Lindsay Wagner.
Lindsay Wagner, and we were down at the beach, and my sidekick Tammy was down there with us, and we were taking care of Billie Jean. It was really an honor. And then the beach was seeping in the.
Oh yeah,
remember?
Nuts that day, yeah. Yep, I remember. Yeah, my ex-wife and I came down there, and the tide was like smacking up against the boards underneath the house, and they had a hard time removing her body from there. I remember that, and not to get back on that, but I just wanted to say, Marilyn, during that time, we were so blessed to have you in our life, because everything that you did for my family, I don't think I could ever repay you. I love you so much.
Travis.
And it's just, you got the plane, so we could take her back to New Mexico, and you were like, I don't need to say you were like the husband, but you're almost like my second mom. You took care of all those arrangements,
and isn't it wonderful that He Himself, the Lord God Almighty, gave me the ability to do so at that time, because without Him, I'm nothing. I'm nothing, and I love you too. Let's go back to that for a minute. See, Americans think that when there's a death, it's over. And we know that when you die, it's not over. It's a beginning. It's another, we're just changing addresses, but we have to let them go, and that's difficult. Now, let's go to this, because this is good. This is good. You went into the hospital. Come on now. And you're going to share an experience, okay?
Sure. Okay, well, what happened with me, I had a heart attack, okay? And I don't remember having a heart. All I remember is waking up. Okay, but what had happened is we went to a James Taylor concert the night before, and we were fortunate. We went backstage, and I have a picture with James like the night before my heart attack, and it happened to be the next day was Father's Day. And what happened was, okay, I had the heart attack. I had no oxygen to my brain for over 20 minutes, which I guess is like, that's not good. But yeah, and then so they had to rush me to the hospital, and they were, hitting me with the paddles, and thank God for my wife Trudy, because, she was there, and there's another amazing story with this that one of these days I'll have her explain to you. But anyways, we're on the way to the hospital, and the technician or the EMT, stopped doing it. They said, well, I had flatlined, and Trudy was like, saying, listen, please keep doing it. She was like going to climb in the back and keep doing it. So she convinced the lady to keep doing them, and they kept hitting me with the paddles. And then we got to the hospital, And they had pretty much pronounced me dead. I had flatlined, you know, and then she's just begging them, you know, please do something, please do something. So anyways, I mean, they took me back and they did the recovery efforts and actually got my heart started again, which is a miracle within itself. And then what they did is they placed me in a state of hydrothermia, where they completely covered my body on ice for 24 hours so my brain wouldn't swell. And I was in a coma for about a week and a half. I was in a coma for about a week and a half. And then it just so happens that the day I came out of the coma was the same day that Trudy's father was killed in the wheat truck wreck when she was 12 years old, you know, as a little girl. I mean, there's so many, you know, different coincidences. And I mean, I don't believe in coincidences. You know, everything happens for a reason. I mean, miracles happen every day. You just have to open your eyes and look at them, you know, to recognize them. But getting back into the, you know, and when I was in my coma, they had put the brain scan deals on me, and I had no brain activity, you know, none whatsoever. And then so they were preparing Trudy. They pretty much, you know, let her know that there's nothing more that they could do for me, you know, that they should probably pull the machine, pull the plug. And then she was so adamant about just let him rest. He's going to be okay. Let him rest. And thank God, you know, I had just a little tiger, you know, Trudy, my wife, and you know, I'm just so blessed to have her in my life. And I came out of the coma, and then when I came out of the coma, you know, they had me tied up so I couldn't, you know, fall off the bed. And then, and I have to back up a little bit. She brought the picture of Mom with Mother Teresa, you know, and put it in the hospital there with me. And anyway, so I, you know, when I came out of the coma, I was struggling, and the nurses were saying, she won't let me stay. She won't let me stay. And I mean, I tried to go back and try to remember what it was like being in a coma, but I can't. I mean, I wish, I don't know, maybe it's probably good that I don't, but I mean, sometimes I wonder if I could get hypnotized or whatever to try to get back to that state. I have no idea. But okay, I didn't see a white light or anything, but I felt enveloped in love. I mean, I get chill bumps just talking about it. I felt enveloped in love. And then when they asked Trudy, you know, who is he talking about? So she's probably talking about his mom, who passed away in '93. And it was, I mean, I remember, I mean, seeing, you know, just hearing, I mean, it was more hearing and seeing, like, you cannot stay with me now, you know, you're not done. And I mean, and that, ooh, I mean, wow. I mean, that's just a miracle. And a funny story about that is, okay, Trudy hates my nickname. I call her Pootie, my Pootie head. You know, she can't stand that nickname. But the nurses were preparing her, saying, listen, even if he comes out of the coma, he might have brain damage since he didn't have oxygen to his brain for over 20 minutes. So when I came out of the coma, she looked and she goes, do you know who I am? And I said, Pootie. And the nurses go, oh no, you know. And she goes, no, it's okay. That's what he calls me, you know. And but I mean, again, with that, I'm just so blessed to even be here.
So do you feel that during that time did you know the Lord before you went into the hospital?
Yes.
And
I've always believed in, you know, Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I mean, always. I mean, when even growing up, I mean, I went to mostly Jesuit institutions. You know, I used to be an altar boy. You know, when I was an altar boy, I mean, I served in so many masses. I mean, every time, you know, when you had the little bell, and then when the priest had the host of wine, this is the body and blood of Jesus Christ, the altar boy would ring the bell, you know, there in the mass. I would always look up, you coming now? You know, and then selfishly, you know, every time I'd come out of communion, I mean, you know, out of confession, I'd be like, okay, if you're going to come now, you know, because I'm clean, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, but I've always believed in God, you know, and I'm not sure if you were there when Mom finally got baptized.
Oh, yes.
Okay. And you see, Mom and I had Father Herbert D'Souza, he was a Jesuit priest at Loyola Marymount.
He was originally from India and is one of Mother Teresa's personal priests.
Exactly. And you know, we knew him because I graduated from Loyola Marymount University. And Mom, you know, us growing up, she didn't want us to get baptized as children because she wanted us to find our own, faith or whatever. She didn't want to impose anything on us. And then, so that's how she was. But before she passed, she finally got baptized, which is such a blessing. You were there, and she had her scarf because she was losing her hair.
Right. We had a white one wrapped around her, hanging down, really stylish, because when we were in India, I was working with the leprosy, also known as Hansen's disease there, and with Father D'Souza and Father Terry Sweeney, and your mom also, she took care of me. I didn't do well over there because of the way they use, it's a long story, but the way they build their homes, so there's so much smoke, it was hard to breathe. Yeah. And Billie Jean took care of me, as she has always and does all of us. And it was really interesting to me to see how much she wanted to meet with Mother Teresa. That was her goal.
Oh, yes.
And of course that happened. And then she became a Catholic, and she accepted Jesus Christ as her Savior via that tree. So it was really an important journey. Another important journey for we who have had it all, lost it all, and come back to have it all again in Him. It is your father. You're being on tour with your father, Glen Campbell. This is Travis Campbell. I'm doing Out of the Box. This is Susan Stafford talking to Travis Campbell right now. And we're going to talk about your dad's tour.
Okay.
Let's talk about.
Okay. Well, when I was little, Dad used to play, it used to be called the International Hotel, which later became the Hilton, hotel in Vegas. And Dad used to play there, and he'd overlap with, with Elvis. And I remember as a kid, I just didn't really understand the whole thing of him being, a star and there's Elvis Presley and all of that. And, but, I really enjoyed going to, going to his shows, when he was there. And it really must have been hard on Mom, watching Dad walk around with Elvis and all those chickadees, all, tagging behind him. When I think about that now, that must have been hard. But with Dad on his last tour, okay, when Dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, he wanted to do, a farewell tour. He was going to do about 12 to 15 shows. But Kim, my stepmother, Kim, his wife, when he passed, had this brilliant idea of doing, it was 152 dates they did. I mean, she drug him around 152 dates. It was over a year and a half of shows until he finally broke down in Napa, California, to where he physically couldn't go on anymore on stage. And basically they used that as a climax for the documentary that she did called All Be Me. I mean, granted, I'm glad it brought awareness to Alzheimer's, but I don't think that Dad should be remembered as he was on that final tour, because he was such a perfectionist. And prior to the tour, my sister Debbie, my older sister Debbie, had toured with Dad, she's a singer, for over 25 years. He toured with Dad for over 25 years, and he had his band that he toured with for, well over 25 years. And for him, a sound check, a rehearsal was just like a sound check, just doing, making sure the mics and everything were okay. But prior to going out on the last tour, Kim, my stepmother fired Debbie, fired his old band, and and went out. I don't know if it was to save money or to whatever, but granted, I'm sure my stepchildren or my siblings had a fantastic experience playing with Dad on stage, as I did sometimes sitting in with him in Branson, sorry about that, as I did sitting in with Branson. But, I'm just glad they brought awareness to Alzheimer's, but not to the detriment, belittlement of Dad, and it was kind of sad because towards the end, when, right after the, hold on.
Take a breath.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Right after the documentary ended, okay, Dad didn't like Nashville because it was cold in the winter. And right after the documentary ended, she took him they sold the house in Malibu, moved to Nashville, and then a month later he was placed in a home, in a memory care facility. And then I found out he was placed in the home via the media. I found out he was placed in the home to me. Debbie and I went to try to see him, and that Kim wouldn't. She allowed us in the first day, but the second day when we came back, she wouldn't let us in.
And why is that?
I honestly don't know.
You have an idea?
I maybe because the only way she wanted us to see him is when she knew we were going to be there. I'm not attributing that she could, tell the doctors, what to do, but she was in New York, and I guess she didn't want us to. She had been going around, doing the red carpet for the All Me documentary, and then so she wouldn't let us in. And what I did is I ended up calling Stan. I won't say his last name, but he was Dad's old business manager. And I said, listen,
I remember Stan.
I said, if you don't let us in, I said, I'm going to get the media down here, and it's just sad, sad. On that final tour, there's a couple of things I just wanted to touch on. On that final tour, my sister Kelly, from, there's Kelly Kane and I from my mom, Billy, she was in the limo with Dad in New York and on the final tour, and Dad was crying, saying, listen, I don't want to do the show. He was like trying to jump out of the limo. And Kim kept telling him, well, all your fans are there. You have to do the show. You can't let your fans down, this and that. And I'd have much preferred my dad spend the last few cognizant years of his life golfing with his buddies, than being a cash cow, in my opinion. I'm just saying that's my opinion.
Well, let's face it, you are Glen Campbell's son and you have a right to an opinion.
And when I finally got in that day, when I finally got in to see Dad there in Nashville, when Debbie and I finally got in, I'm going to clean it up a little bit, but okay, he saw me and it was weird. I didn't break down there in front of him, but thank God, Trudy and people were with me, because I had to go in the other room and I kind of just started crying because Dad wasn't Dad anymore. I'm not sure if I'm sure some of your listeners might have, family members, with Alzheimer's or had experience with Alzheimer's, but, Dad wasn't Dad anymore. And then when we were leaving that day, he says, son, get me out of this crap hole. He used the S word, but, he said, get me out of this crap hole. So that's when Debbie and I, tried to do something. We ended up passing a law in Tennessee that's based off of the Kasem Cares laws. Kasem Cares Foundation law that they did. They passed one in Los Angeles. Carrie Kasem, whose father was Casey Kasem, and Kelly Rooney, whose dad was Mickey Rooney, and myself. At that time, I wasn't part of the Kasem Cares Foundation, but they helped me, and we ended up passing a law in Tennessee based on the law that that she had advocated for. So we go around to different states and we advocate to legislators, for elder rights, oh gosh, what do you call it?
While you're trying to think of it, I think a lot of people right now, we have Carol DeLuise who has this terrible disease. Sure. We have Rhonda Fleming with this terrible disease. We've had so many people that nobody out there knows by name from celebrity, but we have human beings across the world with Alzheimer's. And it's a huge problem.
And what the term is vulnerable adults, that vulnerable adults placed in homes are allowed access to mail, telephone calls, visitations from their children or their family. Granted, as long as it doesn't place any kind of danger.
Well, see, I know how much you loved your father, and I remember your father from way back, and he was a professional. He was a professional man, and even though I stayed with Billie Jean because we went through so much together, and it was quite a trip, I must say. I watched your father grow a huge star. And I think what I came across then, because I got a call from you all, I didn't quite get it. I didn't understand what I understand now, which is you have a right to see your father. You have a right to be with your father or mother or sister. I think the problem that I see with these families, and there's many more, I mentioned a couple here, but what I see is one set of family present versus the ex versus the soon to be next or whatever. it comes into a power of greed, is my opinion.
Exactly. Boy, you hit it right on the nail.
Okay. And so because everybody has a right to see their loved ones,
Sure.
and I think what bothered me the most, I usually don't do this. My heart is a little bit more generous, but is it my understanding that you were not allowed to your father's funeral?
Well, what happened was when Dad was passing, okay, when Dad was taking his last breath, Trudy and I were on our way. We were in the car driving. Debbie had called me. My sister Debbie, my older sister Debbie, was there, and they said, "Listen, Travis, you better come down here. It's not looking good." So what happened is we were, and I believe everything happens for a reason. It's probably a good thing we weren't there. When he actually took his last breath, my brother Dylan was in there, and Kim would not let Debbie into the room where Dad was, when he was passing. Okay, I mean, that's just part of the thing. And then when we did the tribute, she has such animus for my wife Trudy. I mean, just to give people, I mean, my wife Trudy's a tiger. I mean, she's very assertive. Obviously, I'm here talking to you because of Trudy, because of her advocation for me, in the hospital. But she did not want my wife to come to Dad's memorial service, in Nashville there. And I wasn't going to attend the service without her. I would disrespect my wife in that manner. And then finally, what happened was I just informed her. She goes, "You're not going to be there." I said, "Oh no, I'll be there, but I'll be outside with my wife, trying to explain to the press, why I'm not inside because you're trying to have this power over thing, and not allowing my wife to attend, the memorial service." And she, I mean, and again, it's taken a lot of prayer. That's what it is prayer to try to give. Okay. It's really hard. I mean, as many of us know, I mean, I might almost be there, but I can't forget, it's always going to be in the back of my mind, but I don't want it to come, from a place of anger, I try to understand where she's coming from, and it's just, but there's a point I wanted to raise about with Dad in the memory care facility. Okay. What happens is we ended up passing a law, and then we were allowed to see Dad twice a month. I mean, 4 hours, twice a month, 4 hours at a time. So, like you were talking about other people with Alzheimer's, I mean, a lot of times you're just sitting there with them, you're sitting there with them, and you can see not much going on, but you're just sitting there with them. And then sometimes, it was like worth the whole price of admission. You'd be sitting there and he'd be looking at you, and you see something click, and it's like he's shocked to see you. He's like, "Oh, son," he goes, "I sure love you, son." And those are just like, I mean, those are just priceless times. And then there's another time in Los Angeles. This is after Mom passed away, and again, it was at Braemar Country Club, the golf club that I belong to, and he came up to be in the member guest, to play in the member guest, which is a golf tournament. And what happened? Okay, we're in the the coffee shop area, getting ready to go out on the course, and the pro came up, and he says, "Mr. Campbell." So instinctively, Dad, gets up to turn around, and I said, "Hey, Dad, hey, relax, sit down. Around here, I'm Mr. Campbell." I mean, just little things like that,
who was really wonderful to your father, and the only way that I was at the Malibu home, because you have to understand, loyalty is a big thing in our life. And
Sure.
My friend was Billie Jean Campbell, but I went there for Steve Ozarks, who was helping your father.
Sure.
And I went to the Malibu home before they moved to Nashville for a Thanksgiving dinner. Yep. And you could tell your father you could tell there he was, you could tell. But Steve was so great, but how much he loved all of you. I mean, yeah. Steve just loved all of you, and he loved all of us. I mean, he's just, that way. But no one that stayed in that was not family took as good a care of anybody as Steve Ozarks did, your father.
Sure, of course, yeah. And a great cook. He was a great cook, too.
Oh, wasn't he the best? And for the folks that are listening, he lived in Hawaii and he took care of all the bands and took care of all the people. And oh my gosh, he knew how to cook. So let me ask you, I'm going to go back to our Trudy because we've talked about her so many times. And what are the two of you doing now? And how are you handling this COVID-19?
Well, basically, as I said, I mean, we're spending a lot of time together as we always do. I mean, she's my best friend. She's my best friend in the whole wide world. I am so blessed to have her in my life. I mean, I get chill bumps just thinking about it. I mean, it's after with what I went through, with my heart attack and stuff, to have someone in your life that you love, that's there for you. And it's just such a blessing, it really is. Like when we were talking about going back and talking about mom, when she was going through all those struggles, I mean, they had to put the morphine pump in her stomach and she swelled up. I mean, it was just awful. I mean, I really questioned my faith during that time. And again, I have to go back to you, Susan. You got her in the Century City Hospital. I mean, everything that you did, I will never forget. I will never forget everything that you did for mom. But I mean, it seemed like the harder I prayed, the sicker mom got. It was awful. And then after she passed, I really questioned my faith. And my prayers and my prayers actually weren't answered until 7 years after mom passed, when I met Trudy on a plane coming to Wichita. We were sitting right next to each other. And it's funny. I got to tell this story. It's a really funny story. Okay, we're sitting right next to each other. And I don't know if you know this, but Trudy used to go out with Prince Albert of Monaco.
I remember.
Yeah. And she's a singer. She's a country singer. And then we were sitting right next to each other. And I never used Dad's name, to pick up on women. I never did. My friends did, but I didn't. But anyway, so we're sitting right next to each other, and she's telling, and as a brief backstory, so your listeners know, I was very fortunate. I went to school in Switzerland when I was younger, so I speak, read, and write French fluently. I've been drumming my whole life. I'm from LA, and who Dad is. So I'm sitting right next to Trudy on the ride to Wichita, and we were just talking and chatting, and then right before we were getting off the plane, I said, "Who do you admire most in the world?" I got to back up a little bit, because prior to this, she was telling me that, I'll be quick. She was telling me that she just got back from Europe. And she liked it over there, but she didn't like it because she couldn't speak French, so she didn't understand the language. That, she was a country singer and she was looking for a drummer. She liked going to Los Angeles, but she didn't like it because she didn't know her way around, and then she wanted to meet someone that was involved in the country music business. So I didn't tell her anything, and then, we just kept chatting. And then we're about to get off the plane, and I asked her, I said, "Who do you admire most in the world?" She says, "Mother Teresa." I said, "Listen," I said, "this is your lucky day." I said, "Before my mom passed away, she was friends with Mother Teresa." I said, "I speak, read, and write French fluently." I said, "I've been drumming my whole life. I'm from Los Angeles, and my dad's Glen Campbell." She told her friend when she got off the plane, she goes, "I've heard some doozies before, but this guy needs to go to the psych ward. He's crazy."
I love it.
That was over 20 years ago. I've been 20 years of bliss,
It's true. This is Dr. Susan with Out of the Box with Travis Campbell. That's Glen Campbell's son and Billie Jean Campbell's son. Can't have one without the other. It's like salt and pepper. In fact, Trudy, his wife, we're talking about, sang at my star in Palm Springs.
Yeah.
I don't remember the song she sung, but I do remember she sang.
The Rose. She did The Rose. Okay. I actually have that. Yeah. Because I remember the sound system wasn't working, or we were having problems with the sound system, to get her backup music. And then she said that, listen, she'll just do it a cappella, and you're like, well, most people don't do it a cappella. She will, she didn't need the sound. But it's funny. I don't mean to embarrass you, but I just got to say, I always tell my friends, that I don't know if your listeners know that you were the original Wheel of Fortune person,
Yeah.
I love that. I always tell people that, wow, that's great.
It's still a great show, and they're doing great with the show. It's a good, clean show. It's a Merv Griffin show, and we did it. Actually, I did it with Cookie from 77 Sunset Strip to begin with, and then went to Chuck Woolery and then Pat Sajak. And then after going to India, because I had the experience with your mom in India on my hiatus time, I just knew I had a calling. I knew I just could not go on turning letters, even though the money was great. I knew that, and that's calling. And you only have this one life. You got to do what you got to do. So I'm grateful to have gone on to get my doctorate and be a chaplain and be who I am and talking to you,
Right.
and next time I'll be able to talk to Trudy.
Sure.
And I want you to take real good care of yourself and be safe. And what's Trudy involved with? I never know what that little tiger's doing.
She does a lot of work with the veterans. She a couple years ago she was the United States troop. I mean, the U.S. ambassador to the troops for the California National Guard. So she does a lot of veteran work still. A great deal of veteran work. And I mean, of course, I can talk to her about her all day, but I just wanted to get back to one story about India that I wrote down on my little list here that I wanted to talk about Mom. Because Mom said that when you guys were there, that you would go visit the leprosy colonies. But she said that a lot of the people in the group didn't like going into the leprosy colonies, that only a select few would go in. And then so she said that she went in there, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he was he was a leper, and then it had taken his limbs and stuff, and he was on a little skid plate, kind of like Trading Places, Eddie Murphy in the Trading Places scene, on a little thing where that's how he got around. And then and he came out and then talked with Mom, and then I believe Mom went 3 times. I believe she went 3 years, and then Mom said that the next year when she went, she was so touched because she went back. And when the guy came out of his little hut, said, "Oh, Billy, you come back to see me," and that really touched Mom's soul. That the gentleman was so tickled, that she came back to see him, and that, and then she'd always have her nuts in her water. I mean, she had to pay so much extra for her water and her nuts, to bring over there.
Water was the key,
Yeah, everyone.
It's an experience to, I know America is hurting right now. We'll come back. We've been down before. We'll come back again.
Yep,
you're not over with us because we're never going to stop fighting for what's right. And that's what I love about America and the veterans and the people and you and Trudy, and the reason I mention that is because it's only when you go to India or Ethiopia and all these places that we would work for the leprosarium that you realize how great America is so great. And I know you know that. And I'll tell you something, if we're ever going to pray, we got to pray for our nation now.
Definitely.
Because right, Travis?
Oh my God, what's going on in Portland? I mean, I bet Maryland's going nuts. So that's, I used to be a stomping ground up there.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I think that anybody that has taken her for granted is now at a place where we're saying, "Oh, I'd like to have some old America back."
Sure.
Yeah,
most definitely.
And maybe after the election we can get settled down again and become a nation of one, because divided we fall, united we stand. And so that's what I'm counting on. How about you?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I've so enjoyed this talk, Susan.
It's you.
I love you so much, Susan. And again, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate what you did for our family after Mom died.
Well, let me tell you something. Travis, I love you too. And I love Trudy. And I thank you for the opportunity of talking about your mom and your father, Glen Campbell. And I'll never forget all the things that your mother did for me. And as recently as when my mother passed, by the time I got home to Kansas City, your mother was in my mother's kitchen doing her floor to get ready for the church women. That's your mother. That's your mother. I don't know how she beat me home. I have no idea. But, she was there doing it. See, that is devotion, love, and loyalty. And so that's why we're family, you see. So I'll talk to you again. And meanwhile, be safe, take care of yourself, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. And I also want to thank Tammy. Love Tammy as well.
Okay. All right. Bye, sweetheart.
Bye-bye.